What is going on, YouTube people? Neo Cards and Comics here. Today, another Ohtani has been trimmed, and it looks up, allegedly, I should say, trimmed and slabbed up by PSA. If you remember, about a month ago, we did a video on a Ohtani Independence Day. This was the pitching version from Update. Here's what you see on the screen here. This is the video that we did back then. Someone had purchased this PSA 10 for a cool $11,000 to find out shortly thereafter that it had lived in a BGS 9 holder. Here's the sale on the PSA 10. And there was obvious evidence of trimming. This is a numbered card out of 76, so it all tied back. This card is no longer on PSA's Pop Report. It has been removed. So that was that one. Fast forward to today. Late last night, I got a direct message from someone on the Blowout forums that said, "Hey, did you see this?" And I had not. So I pulled it up and looked. Someone on the Blowout forums had made a post. The 2018, I'm going to pull this up over here. This is the 2018 update rookie debut hitting version. The person on the Blowout post, and I will link to this so you could go ahead and read through the whole thing. They essentially bought this card raw and sold it. This was the listing post, or the listing photos from the original listing that they purchased it from. They said there was clear edge wear and damage. It's a little hard to see here, but they post photos of it, but this will probably be easier for you to click on and look at it. You could see here, there's a little bit, let me try to zoom. There we go. Now we're doing something. You can see right there, some white spots there, and it looks like there's a little white spot there on the star as well. And then the top corner as well has just a little bit of white on it that you could see actually in this photo. Right there's just a little bit of white showing, and you can kind of see right there next to that stitching. I don't think, yeah, I can't zoom in on this one. There's a little bit of white right there where you saw it on the previous photo. And now that you know that it's there, you can see that there is a little white right there. And this is a numbered card once again, so it's very easy to trace. So as you can see here, this person sold this raw back in April for $785. And they write out exactly what was going on. In their estimate, it was a grade 7 or an 8. They kept a safe search for this just for shoots and giggles, and they saw it popped back up. But this time, what do you know? PSA 9. It is the same serial number. However, two things stand out. We don't see that white on the edge anymore, and that corner looks a whole lot better. Let's go back to the original purchasing image. So there's two things that kind of call this one out, besides the obvious fact that those things are fixed. One, the gap between the top of the bat and the top of the card right there. So we go over to here, you can see there is no gap. The top of the bat is basically flush with the top of the card. Back over here, you can see there's just a little bit of room there. You can see a little bit of that red background above the bat. Here, you do not see that. On the right-hand side, pay attention to, see the bottom point of this star, how it almost touches the blue. They basically almost essentially interact with each other right there, right above that little white mark where the issue was. Okay, now flip over to this one, and you can see there is a gap there between those two because the right-hand side of the card has been removed. So, another one clearly trimmed now to add a little twist to this, because we're not done quite yet. This card was listed and then very quickly pulled. The person in the Blowout forums notes this. I don't believe they had anything to do with it being pulled. They just happened to note that they saw it pop up, and then it was very quickly pulled. And this all just happened as this was ended on June 25th, just a couple days ago. The other interesting thing. Now, this is sold by a consignor. Quick Consignments 802. I've run into their stuff before. I don't know that I've ever bought from them, but I've definitely had listings from them in my safe searches. Let's go back to the one from a month ago. The $11,000 one, Quick Consignments 820 was the seller. Now, I'm not placing any blame on them. They are a consignor. I have no way of knowing if the same person graded these. I did look. The cert numbers are nowhere close to each other. So it's not like these two cards were graded together. They are way apart from each other. So this one is still active. Last I looked on the PSA population report. PSA, if you're watching, you might want to take a look at this one or at least flag something in the system so a potential buyer might know that this card was flagged. The biggest purpose of this video is, listen, I'm not going to sit here and eviscerate PSA for grading a trim card. Spoilers, they all grade trim cards. Would we like for them all to catch them? Yes, absolutely. Should PSA have caught this one? Sure, absolutely. I don't have the card in hand. I am no grading expert to that level of detail on trimming. It's a numbered card. You would like to think there's a little research done there, but not every single numbered card has a search history on the internet. This one does, but not everyone does. And let's not, like, once again, let's not pretend that every grading company does not grade trimmed cards. We just see them more in PSA slabs because they grade more cards than everybody else by 1,000,000,000%. So, would it have been nice for them to catch this? Yeah, 100%. 100%. Main reason I wanted to make this video was to call out, if you are in the market, keep your eyes peeled for this particular serial number. It is 64 of 76. And this particular cert number, and hopefully PSA researches this and flags it. Now, PSA would also have the ability to see who submitted this card to them. Is it the same person that submitted this one? The real problem here is too, and once again, we don't know, so I'm just going in the speculation town. The biggest problem at large, I mean, take grading companies out of this completely. Because of group submitters and because of consigners, it is very easy to do the dirt, if you will, and shuffle these things around in the shadows because you could use multiple different group submitters. There's how many PSA group submitters are out there? 1 billion. So you could trim, Edward Scissorhands up some stuff, send it to group submitter A, get those cards back, send it to a different consigner. Your next batch goes off. You send it through a different group submitter. You get those back. You sell them through a different consigner because there's plenty of consignment shops out there. So there are so many ways that if you're trying to be nefarious, that you could take these cards and then kind of evenly distribute them across the board to not raise any red flags. The only way PSA could dig super deep is if they looked this up, or any grading company, and then went to the group submitter and was like, hey, you have someone submitting trimmed cards under your name. And then the group submitter would obviously know whose card it was. Now, if the group submitter wants to tell PSA that, I don't know what sort of agreements are in place there. I don't know if the group submitters get in trouble. If something like this happens, they get a slap on the wrist. They get told, hey, you submitted a trimmed card, FYI, you're on a warning or you're done or whatever. And then as a group submitter, that could be kind of scary as well because you might be doing everything on the up and up. But if someone submits a trimmed card through you, it's a bad look on you because you're the contact that the grading company has, whether it's PSA or somebody else. But because of group submitters and because of consigners, there's plenty of ways that you could basically shuffle this stuff around to keep your name out of the limelight. Someone somewhere knows because of, the group submitter knows who you are and the consigner knows who you are, but there's no public facing thing. And I can't imagine most group submitters or consigners are going to go public with that information 9 times out of 10 unless forced, because it would be a bad look for them to give up, even though it is a noble cause or whatever. It's still a bad look when you work in a business like that to be handing out people's information, even if it's just a name. People that trust consigners do it for that reason, because a lot of people legitimately want to stay under the radar on this stuff. They don't want someone to know that they have this card or they sold this card or whatever the case might be. I really don't know what the fix is for this. I don't know if it's just lackadaisicalness on PSA's part, or is it that ultra modern cards, whatever, are really that tough to catch on trimming? And we could all sit here and say, hey, grading companies tighten your standards, and then depending on their standards and how the manufacturers are printing, all of a sudden you could send off a 40 card bulk submission and 20 of them come back N6 min size requirement not met if they tighten the wheels too tight. It is a very fine line that these companies have to walk between, is this card trimmed, is it not trimmed? Remember, these cards weren't made back in the 40s and 50s where there were certain types of machines that can trim them and cut them that don't even exist today. Today, they're cut with modern technology. It's probably not that hard to duplicate in the grand scheme of things. Evan Mathis went on his big thing about a month or two ago talking about card trimming and how easy it is. Maybe it's more prevalent than we all really want to know, especially on the high-end stuff. Probably don't want to know. But guys, if you're trimming cards, at least do non-numbered so you can't track this stuff. Like, come on. From a person doing this perspective, this is just so bold and blatant that, like, it's just a matter of time before someone catches this stuff. The Blowout detectives are undefeated. And the Facebook detectives. This wasn't a Facebook detective. The first one was a Facebook detective. But the internet is undefeated when it comes to sussing this stuff out. It might take them a hot minute, but boy, oh boy, there's a lot of people with a lot of free time on their hands that like to go digging around for stuff like this. More power to them. Makes great content. So shout out once again to the Blowout forums on this one and to the person that pinged me in the message. They also shared, or someone shared my video in that Blowout post to say, hey, this looks familiar. Like I said, I don't know if it's the same person. I have no way of knowing that. It is interesting that these are both Ohtani Independence Days from Topps Update. If it's not the same person, it makes me think there is something up with 2018 update paper that makes it I don't want to say an easier set to trim, but for whatever reason, the tolerances on that must be a little bit more loose, if you will. And also, there's a lot of high-value cards in 2018. The Ohtani is worth the risk on stuff. There's some really high-end Sotos in there. If we saw it on the one from a month ago, that turned from a couple $1,000 card to an $11,000 card. So it's worth the risk on that stuff in those cases. So be aware out there. Be careful, folks. If you're buying high-end, do a couple extra minutes of research. See if you could find if that card's sold any other times anywhere in the same serial number, if it's numbered. Just protect yourself out there. No one else is going to do it. You have to do it for yourself. Check your cert numbers. Check your serial numbers on cards. Scan labels, the whole 9 yards, especially with the National coming up. This is all good things to keep in mind. That's all I got for you, boys and girls. We'll see what, if any, response there'll be on this one. We will catch you on the next one. Peace.